Hello, and welcome to part two of the Center for Nonprofit Excellence Nonprofit Startup Clinic, Developing the Board of Directors. So what is a board of directors? What does it do? Well, the community has resources that it wants to give to certain causes, to certain activities that are carried out by nonprofits in the community. Simply put, the board of directors sits between the organization and the community and ensures that the resources the community entrusts to the nonprofit are used as the community expects them to be used. So they govern the nonprofit. They don't stand separate from it. They are part of the nonprofit, but they are in charge of governing that organization according to how the community expects it to use its resources. When you incorporate, you will have to name your initial board of directors, a minimum of 3. Soon after that, though, you're going to want to expand that board, maybe to 12 or 14. That seems to be the common size. So even as you contemplate starting a nonprofit, it's not too soon to be thinking about pulling together a board of directors, that collection of individuals that will oversee the organization. So what do board members do? Board members' roles and responsibilities can be boiled down into three duties: the duty of care, the duty of loyalty, and the duty of obedience. So under the duty of care, board members simply pay attention to what's going on and care about what's going on in the organization. They are diligent and attentive at meetings and as they read materials between meetings and carry out committee work between meetings. They make every attempt to make sound and informed decisions, and all by using common sense. Imagine a business owner taking care of her or his business. When board members are exercising the duty of care, that is what they're doing. Board members also are loyal to the organization, and that simply means when they walk into the boardroom, the interests of that particular organization are put above their own interests, above any other associations or partnerships that they're involved in, above any family loyalties, friendships. When they gather in the boardroom, they are putting the interests of the organization first and above everything else. And finally, board members are bound to a duty of obedience, and this has 2 meanings. One, certainly, they're ensuring that the nonprofit is compliant with state laws and regulations, are practicing good ethics and the like. But also, board members have to ensure that the organization itself is obedient to its mission. Remember, the community expects this organization to carry out certain activities in the community, and they're giving resources to that effort. The board is making sure that by being obedient to the mission, that is actually happening. So how's the board structured? The key component of the structure of the board is the board's officers, which are typically elected by the board itself. And so you have the board chair, the board vice chair, the secretary, and the treasurer. The board chair pretty much sets the agenda for the meetings and presides over board meetings, facilitates the decision-making, the conversation, and the like. The board vice chair is sort of the understudy for the board chair. They understand the roles and responsibilities of the chair, and they step in to perform these duties if the chair cannot take them on. For instance, cannot attend a meeting. The secretary ensures that all the board records, the bylaws, the minutes, the policies, and procedures are all accurately recorded, duly approved by the board, and are maintained according to state and federal laws. And then finally, the treasurer functions many times as the chief financial officer of the organization. They're making sure that the board understands how the organization is doing financially, that the board is following best practice in financial controls and is reporting its finances as appropriate at the state and federal level. Another key component of a board of directors is the committee's structure itself. The committees are often stated in the bylaws, but they can be made by a resolution of the board at any time. And they really take on specific aspects of the board work. So they're like perhaps a finance committee looking over the finances, a development committee looking over the fundraising. They are composed of any number of members. At least one board member should be on a committee, but there can be other members of the committee that are not on the board. In fact, that's a good way to get more people involved in the governance of the organization. The committees themselves take direct direction from the board and are responsible back to the board for their activities. In the end, the committees of the board actually do the work of the board. If you can imagine a board getting together maybe 12 times a year for an hour and a half, not a lot can be done except the broadest areas of government. It's the committees that actually carry out the specific work of the board in these different areas. So, as I mentioned earlier, it's not too soon to start thinking about who should be on your nonprofit's board. Who should you be looking for as a board member? Well, first and foremost, you should be looking for someone who shares your passion, someone who understands what you're trying to do and has a real passion in their heart for carrying on that work. Board work, if it's done well, is difficult work. It's time-consuming. You want people who are so passionate about the work, they're willing to do the hard work of being on the board. That passion is first and foremost and above any other skill, experience, qualification that a person brings to the board. And you should be looking for passionate people to be on your board. And then after that, of course, skill set and experience is very important, right? So there are certain occupations, certain expertise that are helpful on a board. A CPA, a lawyer, a human resources specialist. Those particular professions can be very useful as part of a board of directors, but also you should be looking at other folks who can further your mission in other ways, right? People that may have a certain expertise in the particular subject matter that your nonprofit deals with. As well as perhaps people who are served by the nonprofit. You wanted a certain skill set and experience that is going to help you move the mission forward. And then finally, you want to bring people onto the board who are parts of certain networks, have certain connections in the community that will help you in different ways, but in particularly gathering resources, and particularly financial resources. People are well connected in the community in the area in which your nonprofit works that can help spread the impact of your work. So before you invite anyone to be on your board of directors, you should get clear in your head and get down in documentation somewhere what you're going to expect of these board members, right? So how many times you're going to meet each year? What fundraising responsibilities will your board members have besides giving to the organization themselves? Will they be required to serve on a committee? And if so, what does that look like? Does your nonprofit have certain events throughout the year that they will be required to attend? And then, of course, are they bringing to the board a professional expertise that you're expecting them to use while they're on the board? Articulating all of this ahead of time certainly goes a long way to mitigating misunderstandings later on about what the board member should or should not be doing. So in the end, you want to make a compelling case for a potential board member as you ask them to join your board, and laying out what the organization does, laying out the kind of passion that you see in them to help them carry that work out, laying out these expectations about their board service. All of that makes a very clear picture for your potential board member and gives them a very solid thing to commit to. going forward. And again, minimizes potential misunderstanding down the road. A final word about recruiting board members onto your board. There's much talk now, thankfully, around diversity, equity, and inclusion. This movement around these terms is growing, and it's growing in particular in the nonprofit sector. And as it does, it has to include the boardroom. There are many reasons to make diversity, equity, and inclusion a priority for your board. Many good reasons, many good ethical reasons. But I just want to offer now one very practical reason. The more diverse a group of people is, the better the decisions they make. A diverse group is much more able to consider issues and questions from various points of view, and so can consider matters more thoroughly. They can consider them more creatively. So as you assemble your board, you should be looking for a variety of folks from different races, ethnicities, genders, ages, physical abilities, and the like. That diversity is as important as whatever skills and expertise or professional backgrounds that they bring. So this concludes our segment on developing a board of directors. We wish you continued success as you consider starting a new nonprofit. Thank you.